All right, thanks everyone. My name is Brian Fuchs, North Dakota DOT. I am the Assistant Local Government Engineer and Tribal Liaison for the DOT. I'd like to take just a few moments today to talk about bridges across the state on the county system. First off, the importance of bridges. They allow for safe travel across difficult terrain, waterways, and other transportation facilities like other highways or railroad facilities. They allow for the movement of freight, our agricultural oil, and other commodities. It's an important and vital link in our transportation system. They also provide the very important service of emergency services, so ambulances, rural fire departments, such as that, law enforcement as well, make sure they can get there the quickest way possible. They also carry buses full of children across these bridges, so they're extremely important to our society. Let's talk a little bit about asset management of bridges. As you can see by this map here, the darker shaded colors have a larger inventory of bridges that are 20 feet or greater on the system. You can see based on the road network system, even though it's a little bit flatter over in the eastern part, they have a lot of different roadways across a lot of different channels and in rivers and things like that for access. And then you get a little bit out west, different areas have a little bit additional bridges in some areas, Morton County and Bottineau County, based on their terrain and waterways. This slide shows when the majority of the county bridges were built. You can see that a very large portion were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So those are, in that 50 plus range for years of age. And you can see we have a lot of older structures as well that are aging. For asset management of bridges, the counties as a whole, including the cities, have about 3,100 bridges that are greater than or equal to 20 feet. You can see bridges are expensive and a large asset for any agency. Here's 4 examples of the dollar amounts for assets. Dickey County, 38 bridges, valued at about $40 million. Bottineau County has about 118 bridges, valued at $60 million. Williams County, almost 60 bridges at $35 million. And then Grand Forks County has 285 at $170 million. And that number is likely going to be increased because these numbers were generated a number of years ago. But that value is also based on the type of bridge and also the size of those bridges that they have within those jurisdictions. So how do you protect your asset? Well, for bridges, you do bridge inspections and you load rate them to make sure that there's nothing wrong with them and that they're properly carrying the traffic that needs to go over them, or if they need to decrease, you can post those bridges. Do proper repair and maintenance of those bridges. Load post them if necessary to help protect them to last longer, even though they may not be able to carry the same capacity of larger loads. They still provide they will provide mobility for certain vehicles. And at times you may need to close them during certain events to help protect them from further damage. So bridge inspections and load ratings. They've been consultant-led since 2000 or 2020. The DOT is still in charge and hires the consultants to inspect those bridges, but we've had consultants inspecting the local agency bridges since 2020. And the state also is using consultants to inspect a small portion of our bridges as well. We also load rating of bridges. Not all of those load ratings have been completed and reviewed yet. We are still working through that. The majority of those have been submitted, but we are looking at those as we speak and reviewing those. And to date, we've had about 325 where we've had either new load postings or reduced load postings based on those load rating of bridges. And those load ratings are to protect the traveling public as well as protect that asset out there. And we've also had over a dozen closures due to load ratings that they can't carry even a passenger vehicle based on that load rating model that's been submitted. Inspection reports. Inspection reports detail the most recent inspection as well as past inspections of those bridges. And all those bridge inspection reports are available through InspectX, which is our inspection software that all of our consultants are using. Now, the majority of the counties have requested access to InspectX to gain those reports and photos of everything that's going on. But more importantly, some of you do need to request access to InspectX to get that information. InspectX also contains information on when those bridges are going to be scheduled next for inspections and how often that inspection happens, whether it's every year based on the condition of that bridge, every 2 years, or possibly every 4 years, depending on if it's a box culvert that meets certain criteria. Load rating models, if they're available, and the reports are available by asking NDDOT. You can send myself an email and we can get you that load rating model and also the load rating report. Those are not available through InspectX. InspectX does have a little issue with uploading files that it's always attached to the most recent inspection or the inspection that you uploaded that data. We are working with InspectX vendor on that to try and get it to where we could upload those models or at least the load rating reports, just have them there for the agencies to review as needed. Load postings and closures. You should make sure that your load posting signs are up and visible and readable, and also correct posting is up there. So many times, we get critical findings come through from inspection reports that those signs are not up, they're down for whatever reason, posted incorrectly. Sometimes they're not visible, whether it's shot up or the sheathing on them is faded, you can't read them. Or sometimes they're even obscured by trees or weeds if they're not posted at the proper height. So please make sure those float posting signs are up. That also protects the county in case the overload goes over it and the bridge goes down. It shows that the bridge was posted and they should have adhered and not gone over that bridge if they were overloaded. And we notify you that a bridge posting needs to be done. Please post it within 30 days. That is a requirement by federal law. So when we send those out, we hope we get a response that is timely. We do know that there has been some issues with some load posting signs that they cannot get them to you, or you order them and it takes a long time to get them due to material issues. So if you have to, go out and post that bridge at something lower if you need to get it posted, and then you can post it at the correct tonnage a little bit later, but at least post it something lower than what we're telling you has to be posted at. Another important thing is if you notice damage or high water or scour issues during certain rain events or runoff events, whatever the case is, you should close that bridge until it can be inspected and repaired if needed. At times, with high water, it can scour out, or a lot of debris comes floating down, has a higher impact force due to the higher velocity waters, things like that. So you may have damage there from impact or even water damage moving things around. So if you need to, close those bridges and then get them inspected and repair them if needed before opening them up to ensure that you don't have any further damage caused by any of the traffic going over it. Now, one important thing we probably need to discuss is, when does your bridge that is considered an asset go to a liability? What you see on the screen here is several bridges that have gone down in North Dakota within the past year in the county system. Now, all of these structures went down due to overloads going over a posted bridge. So it's very important to know when it becomes a liability. Some of these bridges weren't posted they were posted, but not at a very high load carrying capacity. And obviously the vehicles that went over it were heavily overloaded, but there are certain things to make sure that you're aware of, that as structures deteriorate, they move from an asset to a liability. And this next slide kind of is going to show that. And with right here, you can see, it may not be real visible, but right where this laser pointer is right here, that is the connection, or what's supposed to be the connection from the web to this bottom flange, and that's all rusted out. It's not there, so there's nothing there. That is a huge liability. This structure was closed down until the repairs could be made. And this is something that does not happen overnight. It's been there for a while. So make sure you get out there and look under your bridges. This was the result of a consultant-led inspection that found this. They had to scrape away a lot of debris and everything to get at this. So this is definitely a liability. And also on this structure here, you know, they got some banding going on here to try and keep the cap to the pier, as well as the piles. You'll notice that this arrow is pointing to a lot of this one pile here has a lot of checks and everything, and it's rotting out. You know, that's a liability on the county system. Plus you got this overhang here. Traffic gets out here. It starts to doesn't have the load carrying capacity it used to. So these are items that need to be repaired properly to make sure that it doesn't become a liability. Funding, I just want to talk a little bit about funding. Almost completed here, but the new highway bill provided additional $45 million to the state of North Dakota specifically for bridges, and it's based on poor bridges. The intent is to take those poor bridges and remove them, or replace those poor bridges, get them rehabbed, repaired, whatever the case is, to get them into good shape. And we just completed at the end of June an annual solicitation, and we solicited for year 23, 24, and 25. We received a total of 128 applications that covered 152 bridges on those applications. 20 of those bridges were truss bridges, so those will be considered historic. However, 3 of those were considered for the historic rehab program that we started. 24 of those bridges are straight out removals, either and then they want to replace them with low water crossing or just remove them. So those, once they get removed from the system, there'll be 24 less bridges within the state. And we are currently, the selection process is ongoing right now. We still have to go through and score them and determine which bridges will get funding. Currently, we have available to us about $20 million a year for county bridges. That is up significantly. We used to get about $6 million a year for bridges. However, half of that was going for inspections and the load rating component of those bridges. So in essence, the last couple of years, we've only had $3 million for bridge replacements, even though we've been spending more than that. So this will be $20 million total of a year that we will have available for bridge replacements or removals or rehab. And priority will be given to removals or rehab, depending on that rehab strategy. The target is going to be poor bridges, load posted bridges, bridges with higher ADT, higher detour lengths, and also the classification of the roadway that it's on in order to score those bridges for funding. We are giving additional points if you remove one or more bridges beside your replacement structure submitted. So if you want to replace this structure, but you have a closed bridge somewhere else within your county, or 2 bridges, wherever the case is, and some may be poor and open, but maybe you don't want to get rid of it, we will be giving extra points if you want to remove one or more bridges with that replacement bridge to help get that replacement bridge. So with that, here's my contact information if you would like to email me any questions or call me. Thank you.